Hello, I'm David Kain, president of Kain Automotive, and today I'd like to introduce you to Karen Jacobsen. Her brand is the GPS Girl, and better yet, you probably know her because she could be downloaded on your smartphone, giving you directions. She is the voice of Siri. And if you would, Karen, I don't want to steal any of the thunder at all with that introduction. Please tell everyone about Karen Jacobsen.
Oh, g'day, David. It's so wonderful to be here. Where do I start? I am from Australia, and as a young girl, a little girl, I was tremendously inspired by Olivia Newton-John, which led me to want to become a professional singer and move to America. I've been New York based for 20 years,
Wow.
and along the way, I was asked to audition for a client who were looking for a native Australian female voiceover artist living in the northeast of the United States. I went to the audition, I got the job, and unexpectedly in my singer-songwriter career, my speaking voice has ended up in over 1 billion devices around the world. The original Australian Voice of Siri in GPS devices, Garmin, Navman, Mio, in customized car systems for many luxury brands across the world, in elevators and cruise ships and software applications, telling people where to go and what to do while I'm here with you right now, David.
That's exceptional. And, you know, it's interesting as you talked about your upbringing and all the different facets of your career. It is really interesting because when I was doing the research and I went to the gpsgirl.com, which I'd recommend, and really clever information on there. Your navigation has speaker, performer, and writer, and I'm a vegan, or I try to eat vegan as much, and you actually have the vegan guidance there as well. So the hidden talents that you bring to this are really interesting. So our audience sells vehicles. We're in the automotive industry, and I mentioned to you previously that I'd been to Australia on a couple of occasions and loved it down there. I spoke to the Australian Automobile Dealers Association, and better known as AADA. And the Australian people really are wonderful. One of my best friends in life is Alan Cooper, and he's all the time, he transplanted over to the US and lives on the West Coast. So it's interesting what we hear and know about Australia versus what is true. Tell us a little bit about what it's like. I've been watching the show The Crown, learning about the trips to Australia that they took way back when. But tell us a little bit about your upbringing and why you got into performance.
Well, Mackay is the town I'm from, and it's in the Whitsunday region in North Queensland, in Northern Australia, and it's a very beautiful tropical area. And I grew up truly in paradise, but dreaming of the big city. So that television portal to what people in big cities were doing just ignited my interest. And as a very young child, I was singing and just naturally gifted as a songwriter and a singer, and melodies would come into my head, and I would think, how do I write these down? So I was wired innately as a creative person from a very young age. And to my mind, the only place that was valued and that there was a pathway were big cities.
Yeah.
So that made me crave being in the biggest cities I could be. So I moved from that small town to Brisbane, which was the largest city in the state I grew up in, and then to Sydney, the largest state in Australia, and ultimately to New York City, which is one of the biggest cities in the world. And I thrive on that city energy, and I think because it is just such an incredible amalgamation of cultures and ideas and energies and creative opportunities.
That's so cool. Well, so it's interesting that when we were doing a little research and I was trying to learn a little bit more about you, one of the things that I appreciate is, and I always often say this, everybody thinks I'm a pretty nice guy, but they've never heard me talking to someone at an insurance company or say the cable company, the support line, and I'm very frustrated. My guess is people have been very frustrated with you, and you very calmly, as the voice of the GPS, will sit there and just say recalculating,
That's right.
recalculating, and you're so patient with us. So it's amazing. I wonder what goes in your mind when you think of what people must be saying to you, either positive or negative, and what that must mean.
It's pretty interesting, David, because when I meet people, often they will apologize to me for yelling at me. And it's really a point of having quite a lot of fun with people,
Sure.
you know. But it makes a lot of people make a connection with that voice in their car. And it makes sense if you're alone in the car. It could be raining, you could be lost, you could be in the dark, you could be alone. And people kind of create this connection with that
Sure.
voice of comfort and reason. So this is how my brand began, was recognizing that people were very familiar with me when they met me, as if we were already friends. They would talk to me as if these trips we'd taken together, we had actually taken together, which is a little strange. But on the other hand, it makes a lot of sense when you think about those conditions. And I knew there was something in it. And ultimately, I put together the idea of recalculating in the car, directions in the car, and directions in life, and recalculating in life. So I created this principle of recalculating, the ability to let go of what did or did not happen on a daily basis, to be able to make more effective decisions, have a better quality of life, to really be able to be the person who is in the driver's seat of our own lives and businesses, and not at the effect of circumstances, which is, it's challenging at the best of times to not do that, but especially during this particular period of time in history.
Yeah, it is interesting. They've now started describing things calamity-wise as saying, I was driving down the road and 2020 broke out. And when you think in terms of what recalculating can mean, and
Yeah.
all of the business people that are watching this, and all of the individuals whose lives have been disrupted during all the challenges that have come through this 2020 nightmare that we're living, and hopefully starting to see some of the daylight as we work our way through it, and presumably get towards a healthier climate going forward. But talk a little bit about some of the principles of recalculating, and what are the things that people have come up to you after you've presented and said, wow, this really had an impact on me, and this is what I'm going to do with it.
Thank you. Well, I think certainly in a recent presentation, I was some results like that were shared with me of somebody being in a situation where they were asked to not return to their job, and and in previously to using these tools, the reaction may have been just total despair. But after the shock of that, or the news, they were able to say, you know what? This may not be how I had chosen it, but now that I'm sitting here with it, this is really a reset of my own GPS. And again, the ability to have some control over our experience, and to frame when something doesn't go the way we thought it was going to go, with
Sure.
some personal power. I mean, that's what recalculating offers, is personal power. And it doesn't mean don't feel the feelings and don't be a human being. It's not that at all. It's, have the emotional experience of managing what is coming up and letting that flow through you. But then at a certain point to say, okay, this is how it is now. What are my best actions? What can I create now? What can I create now? That, I think, is a really important phrase. If someone was watching this and was going to write something down, I would say write that down. What can I create now? Because we are all faced with circumstances, unthinkable, unprecedented opportunities to pivot. All the buzzwords of this year. And for some people, serious and devastating situations and circumstances. But even through that, at a point, to be able to say, okay, this is how it is. If I argue with reality, that isn't going to bring me closer to a solution. So
Yes.
I do have a 5-step process. Shall I whip through
Yeah,
the five
please.
directions?
What's
Okay.
so great is, I'm here kind of as a fan, but at the same point, if I can learn and make some notes of my own, I'm going to get my pencil out. Thank goodness I'm recording this.
Excellent, excellent. So the 5 directions for recalculating is a 5-step process that I share, and this can be used for little tiny everyday recalculations and changes, and then in big life circumstances as well. So the first direction for recalculating is to notice you are off route. Simply to notice that things aren't going the way you would like them to have gone is like the bringing awareness to it. Like that is the
Sure.
first step. That's when you can do something about it. The second direction for recalculating is to be willing to change direction. This is the most challenging step because as human beings, sometimes we aren't willing
No.
to be open
Yes.
to look at things in a different way. The third direction is to clarify your destination, because once you've realized that things are not how you'd like them to be, that you are off route, new information can come to light. And you can take a look at, when you're clarifying your destination, take a look at where you thought you were headed. Maybe you're not headed there anymore. Maybe your destination's changed. Or perhaps you're just on a detour and you are headed to the same place, but you want to check in with that and be certain. The fourth direction for recalculating is to embrace the steering wheel. What that is about is moving yourself from the passenger seat to the driver's seat and getting yourself ready, geeing yourself up. It's almost like putting your hands on the steering wheel to get ready to go. And then the fifth and final direction for recalculating is to accelerate. And this is all about action, because having feelings and thinking about it and talking to somebody and working through it, I mean, all of that has its value. But, I'm going to say it, where the rubber meets the road is actions.
Sure.
And anybody in an organization, in a business, in sales, we know that action is where it's at. It's picking up the phone. It's being in communication. It is taking consistent actions. So even in a very challenging set of circumstances, if you can move yourself through that process to the place of, okay, it's time to accelerate, even if you're not fully ready to go, but just go, okay, I'm going to take one small action. It's going to move us further away from that bad feeling and closer to that emotional evenness that really is a desired state to be able to operate in an optimal way.
Wow. So it's interesting, even as you parallel that to some of the other step programs and things of that nature. I love the focused approach, and when you get to accelerate, you're not asking to punch it. Sometimes acceleration is just move forward just a little bit, and as you
One little
gain,
bit.
as you gain a little more confidence, you can truly accelerate from there. So I've got a kindred spirit with you because our slang at our company is accelerate your results, because that's
Oh,
really been in automotive, the audience that you're speaking to. You've got community leaders, you've got people who are big drivers of major corporations. And out of curiosity, you've done so much, you're doing so much right now. What is in the future for you, and how do you meld some of the strengths that you've got? You've got the writing talent, the vegan talent, the voice. You can play the piano and perhaps other instruments. How do you meld that together, and what does your future look like?
oh, thank you for asking. And it's quite interesting because I have spent a period of time really asking myself, what does life want of me?
Sure.
And what has come up for a long period of time and that I've now written is I've written a musical memoir, which is a one-woman show, which I perform at the grand piano. And it is a part concert, part motivational experience, and it's told through the songs I've written from the age of 7 through to the present day. And somebody listening might say, well, what's that got to do with me? I work in automotive. Well, here's what it has to do with you is there are a lot of themes. There's music, but there's also message. And it is told, my story is told in such a way that displays, overcoming chronic anxiety, overcoming financial disaster, all of the challenges that moving from having a big dream as a small child and then moving from a country town in Australia to the other side of the world to big bad New York City, and what unfolds during a lifetime. And the lessons that I've learned along the way, I share in my story, and Recalculating, and how my voice ended up in over 1 billion devices is a part of that show and that presentation. And I've performed it for some corporate and business audiences already in my preview performances, and that's been really gratifying on many levels to have people come up and share with me their own stories, and that they're able to take those themes and those tools away around recalculating and how to keep going in their own lives as a result of watching that show.
Wow, I can just imagine. So what's interesting is the dynamics are really great in a live environment, but what are you doing, just like the rest of us, we're Zooming with each other, what are you doing to still attend to your business growth needs in this virtual environment? Do you make these opportunities available? Are you doing speaking remotely? Or are you doing your show remotely?
Yes, I am. I do still do voiceover work. I'm still hired to do customized voice systems and commercial voiceover. So I'm able to do that from my home studio from the computer, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And then I am able to, and have done quite a number of remote virtual presentations. I recently did a conference for 700 people in India. So it's amazing to be able to speak and sing. And then when I'm performing as well at the piano, I set my computer up at the piano so I can speak and then sing and play piano. And it's just amazing to be able to deliver a message and share, uplifting, inspiring material over the computer connection anywhere in the world. So I feel in some ways this experience, if I'm going to look for the positives, which is how I am wired, it's been an incredible opportunity to be able to connect with people globally and immediately through my online community on social, as well as with individual corporate and organizational groups. And that's not something that happens so much before this year.
I can imagine. So it would be crazy for us to end this without you sharing some of your favorite phrases that you've developed a relationship with, if you will, through your navigation system. Are there any roads, streets, or any routes that everybody says, what's your favorite route?
That is funny.
It's kind of interesting.
Well, I will say that, there are so many stories of being in a car with somebody who's, got the device with my voice on it, or jumping into a taxi, or just so many fun stories. But there's one street that comes to mind, and in New York City, on one of the highways on the side of New York City, running up the river, is FDR Drive, and when the GPS, or for quite a while after the GPS came out, people would reach out to me and tell me that my voice would call that road FDR Doctor, which is so ridiculous, but it just comes to mind as one of the fun ones. But there are a lot of phrases that are super memorable. But what I like to say is that it is never too late to recalculate. And that's, if somebody's leaving with one message from today, is just that no matter what the circumstances are, whether it's in your organization and with your team, or individually in your personal life, even when things seem dire, there is another step to take and another action to take. And it can seem like there isn't, but if you're able to collect yourself and give yourself some quiet, truly the right answer will come to you and your inner GPS.
Awesome. Gosh, Karen, this has been wonderful. Way more than what I expected. I think I've walked away with some good ideas, even on
Great.
my own rights. And I can't thank you enough. Our mutual friend, Charlie Vogelheim,
That's right,
introduced
Charlie.
us to one another at the driving sales event up in New York City. And I have been chasing you for a long time, and you've been so generous in always being kind to me and trying to get something put together. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I think our listeners will be very grateful for the information you've shared. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it, and look forward to learning more about and perhaps participate in some of your future events.
Been my pleasure. And one last thing, you have reached your destination.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. You enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye
And you,
now.
David. Bye.